and welcome to episode 2 of Creative Confidence, when we'll be talking about photographic competitions. And again, I am joined by Katie Teesdale-Ward from Kudosity. Hi, Katie, how are you?
Hello, I'm unmuted.
From the beginning, it's fantastic. Oh, it's great to see you. You look very well.
Yes, thank you. Yes, surprisingly, not bad.
All things considered.
All things considered.
Now, when we started talking about doing Creative Confidence as a series of live casts, as we're calling them, competitions came up very near the top of the list. So we thought, right, let's tackle this in episode 2. And I think, you know, we had a chat about it, and there's so many things connected with competitions that are really useful to photographers, and also sort of connected with confidence, that it's, you know, I think it's a really interesting topic, but I know you've got some really interesting thoughts on it as well.
Well, I think what the chats that we've had, which have been many and very diverse over the years around photography, has been that there seems to be more and more competitions coming into kind of the photography market, if you like, than there ever has been, you know, and not just in the UK, sort of internationally. So there are far more opportunities than ever for entering competitions, but I kind of, as the landscape's got bigger, it's opened up that kind of conversation where we've talked about, oh, I don't know if I could enter that one, or I might have a go, or I could do that, but I'm not sure. And this, and you know, kind of this swell of, I would love to, but I'm not sure. Either I'm not sure, or I don't feel confident, or I don't feel capable, or I don't feel ready. And I think the chats that we've had over the years about this, and kind of also an underlying element to SheClicks as well, is we wanted to find a way in which we could talk and encourage female photographers to have a go, and not just have a go, but feel that they are absolutely as capable and as ready and as confident as anyone else. So that's kind of where it all came from. And as those chats have evolved, we've realized that the confidence element is kind of pivotal at some points to it, along with kind of motivation and that feeling of skill set, and that feeling of, am I ready to do this? And what's been interesting as well with SheClicks is, I think it was the interview that you did recently with Donna from Donna Kraus, the new Nikon ambassador. Yeah. She mentioned about the Pink Lady Food Photography of the competition, and it was kind of that feeling of, once she'd submitted her entry, and once she'd got into that whole process, it's a very different sense of that workflow and that feeling. So it's all those feelings that you get, and all that emotional stuff that you go through before you actually submit your competition entry. And once it's submitted, it's like doing your taxes. It's kind of like, oh, massive relief. Because it's then, you've done it, and it's then moved on to the next kind of phase. Yeah.
Pour yourself a glass of wine and celebrate, because I think that's an achievement in itself. You know, you've gone through your images, you've selected the one or the ones that you want to put in, and then you've done it. You've actually gone for it.
Exactly. But we've talked about what are the elements that stop us? You know, why do we look at all of these photography competitions, which are so amazing and with so many different opportunities and different prizes? What is it that stops us? And I think one of the elements that we kind of identified, yes, was the confidence, but that whole process, one of the things that we do, or that I've experienced people discussing, is that feeling of procrastination. And that looks like so many different things to different people. So it can be, well, I'm not capable enough, or I'm not experienced enough, or I don't have the right camera, or I don't feel like I'm ready for this because I know that person that entered it and they were really good, and where am I on this kind of scale? And maybe if I enter next year, it'll be different. I'll feel more capable of doing it.
I'll have a better camera, better lens, better
absolutely
light.
Yeah, there's always a better or a different time to do something when you convince yourself that there is. But when you start scaling it back and go, actually, what is the reason for me wanting to enter this competition? And for lots of people, it's about learning. The level of learning that you get from entering competitions is huge. You can get the exposure, you can get the prizes, all those other things as well. But I think it's moving people away from maybe I'll try next year. Maybe I'll wait until I've got a bit more time. Maybe I'll wait until I've got a bigger portfolio for this particular sector or whatever. When in fact, I think it's a good starting point to look at the competitions that really sort of speak to you. Because if you're a landscape photographer and you suddenly think, oh, I'll enter a portrait competition, well, kind of just give yourself a minute to think about what it is. Why are you looking to enter that competition? Why are you looking to move away from something that you really love? Instead, look at the competitions that are out there that really kind of speak to you and think, yeah, actually, because then suddenly you feel that you're putting yourself in a position where you're with like-minded photographers. You know that the people who are already on the judging panel, you understand what they're looking for from an entry, so that you can then go through your portfolio and kind of address it in a comfortable way. So I'd say that would be the first step. And luckily now, because there are so many diverse competition opportunities, I think there is pretty much something for everyone, don't you?
Yeah, oh, definitely. And I mean, actually, you know what, even we're talking about Donna entering the Pink Lady Food Photography Awards. Actually, she mentioned, she submitted to one particular category, the blogger category, but now she looks at it and said, actually, the breadth of categories that there are, it's literally, I mean, there are categories for if you want to photograph, a plate of food or a pineapple or, somebody preparing food, but actually there's political commentary in there as well. So the spectrum is really wide just within that competition. So she started in a particular area that suited her, and then it's helped her expand, and think about what she wants to shoot. But, beyond food photography, there are lots and lots of different types of competition. And there are some that are particularly aimed at women. There are some that are aimed at everybody. And, like you say, different genres of photography. One thing I think is really important to remember is that, you look when you're looking at the winners from a competition, is to remember that those images are always very inspiring and really interesting, but not to be overwhelmed by them, because see them as inspiration. Oh, could I create that? Could I do something like that? And actually you wouldn't enter a copy of an image to a competition, because you'll never, if you copy the winning image, you won't win next year. But you will learn a lot through doing that, and you'll learn techniques and stuff, and it will give you some ideas. But what you can say, you can bet your bottom dollar that winner, that wasn't the first year they entered that competition. They will have entered other competitions, they will have done all sorts of things, perhaps like I've just described, trying to learn and sort of get comfortable with the whole process before they've actually started to get selected in shortlists and be a winner. So I think, it's important not to feel overwhelmed by a competition if you don't win. It's about thinking, it's about enjoying it as well.
Absolutely, because there are times when when you experience that whole kind of flow, and when you're looking at images, like you say, the winning images, the highly commended, that they're used for marketing. Those images for the next year, they're used for that, to inspire and to motivate. But it could be that there are elements of those images that you think, actually, that feels like something that I'm comfortable shooting, and I'll do it in my way, and I'll do it in my style, and you can translate it in your own way. But I think you need to then also believe that you are as capable and as worthy enough to enter those competitions, and going in with the kind of with the mindset of, I'm going to learn something here no matter what happens. And yes, I would love to win 2 weeks in Antigua or whatever with a new camera and all the rest of it. Love that. But if I don't, what I want to learn from this is, I want to be able to learn the process of entering a competition. So when on that entry form, what criteria are they asking for? And that's not just the image, it could be, you know, what written words need to be supporting that submission. Who on the judging panel, who do I admire? Who do I want to feel like I can get my work in front of?
Yeah.
And to feel, like we said at the beginning, that full sense of pride of, I've entered.
Yeah. I think it is really worth giving yourself a pat on the back for doing that. And I was just going to say exactly the same thing about, you know, getting your images seen. You look at the judging panel and you might really admire, say, Kate Hopewell-Smith, who's one of the judges last year for the SheClicks exhibition, helped us select the images that went into the exhibition. Everybody who entered had their image looked at by her and thought about seriously. And that's really nice. That's really nice to know that one of your pictures has been looked at by an experienced photographer who kind of thought about it. She might not have selected it, but she had a look at it. And I think, that's actually quite a nice thing.
Absolutely. It's like being on the Bake Off and you've had your food tested by Mary Berry. I'll take it.
Spit it out.
You nearly got a handshake, but not quite at all. It is about, there's a massive part of the whole process.
Yeah.
And interestingly, and you'll be able to give a bird's eye view on this one. When we talk about what happens when you enter, and then kind of what happens either if you go through to the next round, or if your entry doesn't get any further than that first round, I think it's always worth seeing that competition through to the end, to find out which images won, what the supporting comments were from the judges, and where possible, I don't think it does any harm to send a very nicely worded email to the competition and say, I really appreciate that I didn't get further than this, but this is the first time I've entered this competition, and if possible, when all the confetti has died down a little bit, I'd really appreciate your feedback. May not have the time to go through a whole portfolio review at all, but I would be really interested to know what things I could do next time, or what do you think the image was particularly lacking, or where do judges are normal people.
Yeah.
They are absolutely normal, but they potentially are going to be very, very busy and pulled into many, many directions and for different competition or whatever. But I think that personal touch and request for feedback, you may not hear back from them, but you might. Yes. And that would be pretty amazing, and that would help with the growth, with the learning. Yeah. It's kind of, okay, I submitted, I didn't get very far, but I got this back from it. Yeah.
I think that's a really good idea, actually. And from a judge's point of view, okay, it might be a bit overwhelming if you get 2,000 people all say, could you give me a bit of a commentary on my image? But actually, you know what, sometimes if you're a judge, you do the judging and you see the pictures, and it's really nice to see how happy the person is who won and how happy the people are who got second and third or whatever, and you see a nice catalogue. But then it's like a black hole, you know, you don't hear anything else. And it would be nice to know that somebody really enjoyed the process of taking part or something. You know, it is a bit of a two-way thing. I think the judges sometimes, it's a bit like doing your exams, you know, you've done all this judging and then it just finishes.
Yes.
So it's nice sometimes to have a bit of follow-up. So I think that's a really good idea. And it might be that they say, you know what, I can't reply to everybody. What I am going to do though is do a webinar about it or a live cast or something like that. And they say they might discuss the reasons why they picked particular images or what took them in a particular direction.
Absolutely. And it can help. I think potentially it can help competitions get a feel for, you know, maybe there is a theme that is not being connected with when they're putting the brief together for the competition. Yeah. There are many sort of takeaways that you can get from it, but the first step, I think, is identifying the competitions that really resonate with you, and have a look at those and think, okay, right, what do I want to have a go at entering? Narrow those down, find out when the deadlines are, read through all of the bump about it, and kind of, if possible, because it could be more than one, it could only be one, but think about the timing of when you want to enter those. You know, I think entering multiple competitions all in one go is potentially not very helpful, because you're cramming for lots of different exams essentially, and you're switching from tab to tab to tab. I think if you look at a collection of competitions that speak to you, look at those deadlines, look at your images, and be aware of whose counsel you take when you're submitting them, because I feel that the important point to kind of recognize is that this is your work, this is your submission, this isn't a collective, this is your submission, and you have to feel that that's the right one at the right time for you. Yeah. So I think that there is a value of just going, right, I've entered my competition, and then kind of just let it roll out for a while. Yeah.
I think that there's often quite a bit of conversation actually in the SheClicks coffee mornings, where we talk about entering camera club competitions. And I think they're a really good exercise and they can be very enjoyable for people to do. But some of the people have mentioned that, for example, if they submit an image with intentional camera movement, it just doesn't go down very well, because it's not kind of what the club is into or that judge is into. And I think perhaps an awareness of that is useful, because it's a bit demoralizing if you're always going to get knocked back by somebody saying, oh, I don't understand why this is all blurry.
Yes.
But equally, you know, when you don't have that with a bigger competition or an online competition, so, you know, have the courage of your convictions to you know, if you've got some creative opportunities, then by all means, you know, go for it. Be deliberate about it. Make sure that, you know, if it's blur, make sure it's clearly blurred, and that, if you see what I mean, you know, it's not accidental blur, it's deliberate blur and things like that. But you touched on, you know, reading all the bumps connected with the competition, and that is so important, because, you know, having judged, say, a competition on Photocrowd, for example, where the criteria is quite clearly black and white, and you're looking at a color image. Now, it might be a great image, but the theme is black and white, so it can't win, you know, and that's such a shame. So, you know, it could be that someone accidentally clicked the wrong box. I don't know, you know, so the wrong image uploaded. But, you know, just make sure that you read everything and that you're really clear. And if it says you can't replace the sky, then make sure you haven't replaced the sky and stuff like that. Be honest about it.
Yeah.
I think one thing that can prevent people sometimes from entering a competition is kind of like being overawed by the significance of it. So, you know, you always read somebody wins a competition and then suddenly they get lots of publicity and they talk about how they, you know, how they shot the image, and it becomes a career defining moment for them. It helps them accelerate their career to the next level. And if you're looking for the image that is going to accelerate your career to the next level, that's quite a different thing to entering a competition, particularly if it's your first competition. So, you know, don't put that pressure on yourself. Just think about entering the competition and getting to the next stage, learning from it and enjoying the experience.
Yeah, that is a very good point, because again, I think it can be linked to the part of the procrastination.
Yeah.
Is suddenly you start sitting and overthinking the whole thing.
Yeah.
Before you know it, you were feeling quite confident and quite excited about entering a competition. You've read all the gumph, you know which images, and then you just sit on it and think, oh, this is quite a big thing now. Oh, look who's on the judging panel. Oh,
I remember when the National Lottery, sorry, interrupting you there, Katie, but I remember when the National Lottery started, seeing a lady discussing the fact that she bought a ticket and she was thinking there was I think maybe it wasn't when it started, it was when there was a massive rollover. So it was a huge amount of money. And she bought a ticket and she started to think what she'd do with the money. And she was worrying about what she would do with all this money. And she had like 6 grandchildren and she'd give them this and give them that. Yeah. And by the end of it, she was so worried that she might win it because she didn't know what she was going to do with all the money. She was actually relieved when she didn't win it. You know, it's a bit like that. You can sort of egg yourself up into a frenzy, and you need to kind of like just go back down.
And it's the same with when you're asked to do public speaking, or if you're asked to do a talk at a camera club, or if you're asked to do present your pictures in a portfolio. Beware of your inner monologue. Yes. Because it becomes this, it can take it can rob you of all of that joy and that excitement.
Yeah. And
before you know it, instead of saying, I've entered this competition, I'm really excited, you've said, I've entered this competition. And it's like, no, be really, be excited, it is photography, it is joyful, it is supposed to be exciting, it's about the learning, it's about the experience. You could get incredible exposure, or you could just have the joy of entering the competition and going for it. And
but the tough thing is, if you've only got one winner, you can have 10,000 absolutely superb images, but the judges have somehow got to pick one, and that's really, really tough. So say, not winning or not being shortlisted doesn't mean that picture doesn't have worth. And actually, it doesn't mean that it won't lead somewhere as well. And I've got an interesting example. I don't think I've mentioned this before, but when I was first getting into photography, quite a while ago, I entered the practical photography of the year competition. And so long ago, it was all on film. So I was shooting on transparency then. I was shooting transparencies in. I don't think I'd even thought about a digital camera. I'm not even sure they existed. Anyway, and each month you submitted on a particular theme. And there were some months, I think early on, I was lucky. I got, the top 20 were published. And I was in there somewhere. So that spurred me on to enter the next one, and I did. And there were some rounds where I didn't get listed. And I never actually got, I think you got a prize for the top 3, and I never actually got into the top 3 for a prize. But I was always in there around and about. And by the end of the year, I had enough points, and I forget where I can't even remember whether I came 2nd or 3rd. I think I was perhaps 3rd. No prize again, but I was there, and I got a phone call from the editor, Will Chung, and we had a chat. And the next thing I know, I was going to Florida to shoot an advertorial for Kodak. And, I didn't set out to do that. I was just excited that I got my picture published. Yeah. And, that whole thing, that's quite a significant point in my career. Well, I didn't actually win anything. It's just sort of being tenacious and keeping going and having some fun and sort of looking at the themes and thinking, I'll shoot this on that. And I know there was a couple where I kind of thought, I don't really shoot that, so I'll do something else. And you kind of think, I should have stuck with what they were really after.
Exactly.
Well, that's fun.
But it is, again, a really good example. And I think when you look at the competitions that are out there now, there are many people with amazing photography careers, speakers, all sorts of things, who never actually won the big prize, but they kept on applying, and they kept on submitting, and they kept on trying, and they kept on, and it is just, you've just got to keep at it, because there is, and at every point you will always learn something. You will always learn something, and whether that's from a real starting point of correctly reading the competition, brief, and understanding that correctly, through to actually I could have pushed that image a little bit further if I'd just been a bit braver, if I just got over my, oh, well, what do you think? What do I think that they would think? What does everybody think? What's everybody thinking? Crikey, your head will explode. The more you overthink it, the more you'll sit, the more you won't submit, and the more it will just become this massively joyless experience. All of photography should be exciting and fun and creative.
Yeah.
And if entering competitions is your thing, then nobody should stop you.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that people want to know is, so where do I find out about these competitions? Now, as often as I can, if I see a competition mentioned, I will post it in SheClicks, because I really want to see more SheClickers entering the competitions, and I really want one day to be saying, yes, we've got a SheClicker who's won this. And we have had, examples of that, and it's fantastic. We have got a unit in the Facebook group which lists competitions. So if I know the units can be a bit awkward to find, but they're listed with announcements. If you go in there, there's a competition section, and we just ask anyone who finds a competition that's interesting just to put a bit of information in about it and a link. So that's a really good place to find them. Search around. I often say that be on SheClicks, and don't forget, we have it's not a competition, but we have a challenge every month, and it's a bit like doing a competition in terms of getting the ball rolling and thinking about entering competitions, because you go through the similar sort of process when you're doing a challenge. So that's one question people often ask, is how do I find out about competitions?
And I think there are free competitions, there are competitions that have a fee, there are internet, always look at kind of the terms and conditions and stuff, because there can be hidden information that you kind of need to be aware of.
Yeah.
But in terms of the confidence issues, I think one thing that we talked about before SheClicks, SheClicks was created, was that there needs to be a support network for female photographers of all different levels, and there needs to be a way in which we can give constructive criticism, constructive critique, people, and constructive, that you will learn things, that you'll come away going, okay, a bit of a chin stroke, I get that, perhaps some of it I'll agree with, some of it I don't. So it's important when you're looking for who you're getting support from, choose that group wisely, and then take that considered feedback on board in your own time. Don't chew over it.
Chew over it, don't worry over it.
Exactly. Nice strap. Well, we'll use that. But yeah, that's exactly it, because it's not that when you are entering competitions, yes, there is a part of you that will be feeling exposed. I get that. But when you're, this is about development, this is about learning, this is about growth, this is about enjoying it. And there is a real value in constructive criticism, and there is a value in constructive feedback.
Absolutely.
Don't worry necessarily about reacting to that straight away. Chew over it, think about it, and decide whether it is that you actually you've got a point, or actually that's a really interesting, but that doesn't resonate with me, because it's your image.
Yeah. And I think I do see some people posting SheClicks saying, oh, you know, I want to enter this competition and I've got these 5 images or whatever, and I can't choose between them. Can you help me? And people are very helpful with that kind of thing. And I think that's really great, because it is a nice, safe place and you're not going to get horrible comments. And I think people they get that actually if somebody posts a picture with intentional camera movement, if that's not their thing, you don't get those silly comments, oh no, it's not my thing. Yeah. And you know, you get helpful comments from people who are into it. But also I would say, don't be afraid, you know, if there's a photographer whose work you admire in the group, don't be afraid to tag them, because I'm sure they would love to comment on you, on your work, and to help you out, you know. And I know quite a few people. Carolyn was talking the other day, Carolyn Mendelsohn was talking about portraiture, and I'm sure if you tag her in an image, you know, she would probably give you a few tips if you were struggling with something. Glenys Garnett, great at creative photography, and she, you know, she's always very generous with her knowledge. So, you know, if you'd like some specific feedback, then don't be afraid to ask, tag people, and show your work.
And also, don't fall down the rabbit hole of so much critique. You know, there is coming back to that point I was trying to make about not entering lots and lots of competitions at once. You need to have that time built in to just go, okay, get that, understand that, yeah, and because confidence is something that you need to keep working at. You need to keep developing. It's not something you can go, okay, I'm confident today, that's gonna see me out for the rest of the year. It's a case of, okay, I need to keep working, keep developing, keep reflecting, and keep moving forward. But this we're talking about competitions, about the chance to get your images in front of people that you admire, that you respect, and that you can go, do you know what, I've entered some competitions before. And you can inspire somebody else to go, it's okay. Yeah. You don't, you know, it's not this, my God, I need to enter this competition. Use those people who aren't necessarily the judges, who aren't necessarily the winners, but your friends within your group who have entered competition to inspire you. You know, think about it on that level rather than the, oh my gosh, it's so massive.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And you know, your mum can always be relied upon to say that's a great picture, you should definitely enter. Although I have heard some people say, there was someone was talking about, they showed their mum a picture and she went through it and explained exactly why she really hated it. Thanks. But you know, there are always going to be some people who buoy you up and say it's really great, it's really great. And I think that's when it is helpful to have some photographers in the group who, you know, right, well, they shoot a lot of this sort of stuff and they will give me an honest opinion. So
yeah,
just don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, there are opportunities for growth in expertise. You know, nobody is, even professionals still want to get tips and help from other professionals, and everybody's learning all the time. But don't let all of that stop you from just going, I like the idea of this competition, this one looks fun, I'm going to give it a whirl. Because what is the best that can happen? The best that can happen is that you're going to win that competition and you're going to have something lovely and shiny on the mantelpiece, potentially. You know, and why not? Just go for it.
Yeah. And actually, one of the nicest things I think has happened in recent months was when the Landscape Photographer of the Year competition shortlist came out, and people weren't able to share their images because it's all hush hush. Yes. But just people saying, I've been shortlisted. And I think everybody got kind of like a little, oh, it's exciting. It's a real buzz, and sort of knowing there were lots of SheClickers in the mix. You know, yes. It's a really nice thing.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think unless you have anything else on the subject of competitions, I think, you know, that's some food for thought for everyone.
Yeah.
And the next Creative Confidence, we're going to be doing it as part of the photography show.
Dun, dun, dun.
which is on, it's the 20th and the 21st of September. So we'll be doing it on one of those days.
We'll let you know.
Yeah. But if you have any ideas of things that you'd like us to talk about in Creative Confidence or some questions, just let us know. We'll do our best to include it or include the question. We'll keep it all anonymous because I think it's probably better that way when we're talking about confidence.
Yes, but one thing I think we were going to try and touch on, whether we make it for the whole episode next time or part of it, is imposter syndrome.
Oh yes.
What a hot potato that is. So if we feel that would be something that people would like to discuss for the next one, then let's do that, because I think it is very prevalent, certainly for female photographers.
Definitely, it's something I see mentioned a lot. Okay, well, Katie, it's been fantastic talking to you again, and hopefully one day we might actually get to do one of these in person.
Yes, we could touch and everything.
No, we can't.
No, we can't. No.
No, my arms aren't a metre long or half a metre long, so no, we can't.
No, it's been really lovely, and I hope it's been helpful. And yes, just get in touch if there's anything else that you want to cover in terms of competitions.
Now go and enter them.
Yes, go enter.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.